We're using jQuery to build this tool where you can drag tools from the left-hand side to the right-hand side canvas. So first of all, let's use HTML and CSS to lay out more or less the page. So we have already created a Hello World HTML page here, and let's replace that with HTML layout to try to get this page to look like that. So let's remove this H1 and let's create an outer div where we're going to do all our work in. So we're going to have the left-hand side and right-hand side, and this title at the top. So let's just do the title up here. So let's grab that, and let's use an H1 for that. H1. All right. Then in here, we're going to have to create kind of like a row that has two columns. For that, we can use Bootstrap that has classes that allow you to lay out this very easily. So let's see where we are so far. There it is, drag and drop tools onto canvas. Let's remove that hello world with the alert box. Okay, very good. So let's see. Let's have the column, a row, sorry. Let's create a row using Bootstrap's row class, and that's going to allow us to create two columns, right? And so we're going to have like a one row with two columns, maybe split up in maybe a third and 2/3, or maybe a little more, 1/4 and 2/4. So we can let's divide this into two columns. So div class. This will be column, and here we can choose all sorts of classes that will allow us to split it for different sizes of screens. You know, large screens, medium screens, small screens, or extra small screens. I'm going to use extra small screen, which means that I want this layout no matter what, from small, extra small screens all the way up to really large screens, right? Let's see. Let's choose a three unit column on the left-hand side, and maybe a 9-unit, right, column size. So column XS 9. They always have to add up to 12. 9 plus 3 is 12. On the left-hand side, we want. Let's see. What do we want? We want kind of like a title. So let's use H2 for that. So H2. We'll say these are the tools. And on the right-hand side, we also have kind of like a title. Let's also use an H2 on the right-hand side, and we'll say that this is a canvas. And on the left-hand side, we have these tools, tool 1, tool 2, and tool 3. So let's for now, let's use H3 for that. So it's H3, tool 1, 2, and 3. All right, and let's see where we are so far. Okay, so we kind of have what we're looking for, right? We have the tools 1, tools 2, and tools 3, and the canvas on the right-hand side. So more or less what we have here. We can keep styling this a little bit. Notice that we have some margins around the entire page. For that, what we could do is we can use the Bootstrap class container. Which is going to add some margins on the left and the right, but that's a little bit too much. There's another container class called container fluid that doesn't add that much margin. So let's do that. Okay, there we go. So this looks a little better, and we can start perhaps painting or changing the background of these of either side of these, right? Also changing the borders of the tool. So let's do that. So these H3 over here, we can style them perhaps using the style tag. We can say that all H3s for now, we can have maybe a border perhaps of 2 pixels wide. They're solid and gray. How's that? Let's reload that. There we go. We got some of this border going on here, but it looks like they have some like a rounded corners. So let's add some rounded corners. You can say border and radius, perhaps a 5-pixel radius. There we go. So we have some the pixels all around, but it looks like they have some kind of padding all around the between the border and the title. So let's do that. Let's maybe add some padding of maybe 5 pixels around. There we go. So that's what we have, more or less what we have here in our target implementation, right? The background colors, we could change the colors of each one of these columns. So for instance, we could say here that the background color is perhaps one of these blue, right? Okay, there we go. So we have this bluish going on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I think this is beige that they're using. So let's use that on the column on the column on the right. So we can say style, background. Oops, that's not it. Background color. We can use maybe like beige, right? There we go. So we're somewhat close to what we're looking for. We want the left-hand side really to go all the way down to the bottom. But by default, because we're using probably using float to put these side by side, the behavior is to for these divs is to expand as much as the internal content there is. So we want to just pull this down all the way to the bottom, right? So so to do that, what we could do is change the position of this so that to be absolute, so that we can tie this to the bottom of the page. But to do that, the container of this whole thing needs to be stretched out the entire height of the page. So if we look at what it looks right now, notice that the body, and notice that the body doesn't even stretch all the way to the bottom. See that? The container at the top, the parent to all of these, also doesn't stretch all the way. So what we need to do is to make sure that this stretches all the way to the bottom, right? So one way is that notice that if we change the height to be 1%, 100%, notice that it's still not enough, right? Because it's 100% of whatever the body says, right? And the body is not being stretched all the way, right? So one way to do this instead is to change this to the position to be absolute. Then once it's absolute, we have total control of where the top, bottom, right, and left end up. So for instance, we could stretch it. We could stretch the bottom down to 0 pixels. Notice that it's now hooked up to the bottom of the page, and we can hook up the top. Right, we can hook it up to the 0%. Right. So now that we've stretched the parent, right, to top and bottom, we can also stretch the left and right. Notice that because its position is absolute, it no longer stretches the entire width of the page. So we can stretch the left and right to be 0 pixels, and the right also to be 0 pixels. Now it's stretched the entire width of the page. Now that we have the parent container fluid stretch the entire width and height of the page, we can now have the row stretch the entire height of the parent. Right? We can say that this row we can say that the position also we can say absolute. Absolute. Wait a minute. Let's see. Let's say position. Do we say row? The row has already a percentage. Let's see. Let me look at my cheat sheet real quick. We can say that absolute. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That is what I want to do. The index, bottom, left, right. Height. Okay. Yeah. So it is height 100%. Yep. So we can say now that the height, I want to stretch it the entire height of the page. This right here. So we want to say height 100%. That's this the same row, absolute bottom, blah blah blah. 100% relative and position relative. And that doesn't seem to do the trick. Oh, okay, the column inside needs to stretch, right? So the row is just this outer row, right? We need the column. This is one of the columns, and this is another column needs to also stretch all the way to the bottom. So the column here, we can say that is position absolute, right? And we can say that the top is 0 pixels, the bottom is also 0 pixels, right? So we can stretch all to the bottom, and the left is 0 pixels. And then the right hand side, we're going to do something similar. We're going to say position also absolute. The right, we're going to stick it to the right hand side. Right? We're going to say the bottom, we're going to stick it to the bottom like that, and the top to 0 pixels. There we go. Notice that we've stretched now the entire canvas and the tools all the way there. Okay, so to do that, we're going to copy all this styling uh, from our test editor here in the browser. We're going to copy it to make it permanent on the HTML. So container fluid, let's go to container fluid. Container fluid, where are you? Container fluid, there we go. We're going to add style. We're going to add those styling so that we're going to make it permanent. There we go. And finally the right. Okay, and then the row, we're going to add this style, height and positive position relative. That's the row. So style is equal to that. Okay, and each one of the rows, right? We're going to copy the color, the background color of the left row. So we we have that array, the color. We are going to add the position, top, bottom, and left. Okay, that's for the column left, right? This left column over here. So let's copy it right here, paste. Okay. And we're going to do something similar with the row, with the column on the right. Okay, we're going to paste that. And the right. And there we go. So if we refresh the page, notice that we have permanently made those changes. Okay, so we have more or less the layout that we want. So now we have to go in and start making using jQuery to add the capability of dragging things around. Notice that we don't yet have that at all, right? We only have the layout. So we'll do that in the next video.